What is good, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and this one I want to break down what's going on with the overall market and talk about some very important developments on Tesla's chart. I'm also going to talk about what the news is saying about Tesla and then break down how today went with Jerome Powell speaking and how all of his comments may affect the market moving forward. But before breaking anything down with all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $50 cash reward. And the offer ends in just 6 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, looking at the market, things are looking very, very interesting. We started off with Jerome Powell saying some very big things. So he started off by talking about how the Fed is open to raising rates again. He said that the Fed has to remain restrictive, which is part of why the market was just very volatile. But then he said that they're going to be reacting to the data. And for the time being, the Fed has to remain very cautious by looking at the labor market and the current wages, right? He's looking at wage inflation, wage growth. And he had, implicitly stated that the current economy, with the amount of jobs being added and etc., is too hot, and the Fed has to continue to remain restrictive to maintain their 2% inflationary target, or at least meet their expectations. They also mentioned that the economy was stronger than what they were expecting, and that for that reason, the Fed has to continue to do what they have to do. Now, if anything, I mean, some of those claims were technically, significant, but he basically repeated most of the stuff that he said earlier, and nothing was like too insane to the point where it would like crash the market. This was very different from like Jackson Hole of 2022 when Powell was speaking and he had to be way more aggressive due to the high inflation we saw. So at that time, things have changed, and today was just a very, very insane day. If you guys were actually watching what happened, when Powell was speaking, the market got this huge pump. Tesla went all the way up to about 238. Then we dumped all the way down to 230. Then we pumped all the way up to almost 240, all over the place. If you're looking at SPY, this was very, very crazy volatility on SPY. SPY got this crazy pump. Okay. So I told you all that SPY would likely gap up approaching Jerome Powell. And that is exactly what happened. We gapped up approaching Powell. Then we started to sell off a little bit as he was about to speak. And then when he was speaking, I told you all that all hell is going to break loose. What happened? The market got this crazy pump after Powell was done speaking or near the time he was finishing. SPY went up to almost 441.25. Very, very big pump. This was only a trap to trap many investors, trap many retail traders because of the liquidity levels. So, what do I mean by liquidity levels? Let me just break this down in a second. Liquidity is basically what these different institutions are trying to grab. They're looking at different stops and they're figuring out different areas to pump stocks so they can start entering their positions. And simultaneously, they're causing as much pain for retail as possible. So a lot of these retail investors had their stops set around this 440 area, or even this wick right here was where they had their stops. So you could see they triggered this stop. This is something you're going to learn in trading. This happens all the time. They basically triggered this stop right here by pumping us a little bit higher. You can see this wick right here is a little bit higher than this wick right here. You guys see that? They pumped it a little bit higher to cause pain for retail. And then as soon as it went all the way up here, as soon as Powell was like done speaking, that's when they ended up sinking the market super hard. SPY tanked from 441 all the way down to 435 in a matter of like 45 minutes. That was a crazy drop. It happened very fast. And this was another trap that they set for retail. And what do I mean by that? Well, check out the levels on this thing, okay? So looking at these levels, all you have to do is look at the bottoms here, guys. So look at where they sank the market. You can see right here, this is where they sank it. So we had this low right here, and this is where a lot of retail had like some buy orders. A lot of people were buying around 436.5, thinking the market would form a double bottom after filling this gap because of the gap support that would lead to a bounce. But what did they do instead? They continued to sink it down. They continued to cause the market to tank. And then the major stop losses happened to be around 435.36 to about 435. I would say around 435.6 around there. So the mid 435s, this is where people had their stop losses. And what did they do? They took that liquidity. They said, hey, it's mine. And they screwed over so many retail investors. So they did this as another trap. They continued to sink it down to about 435, a little bit above that. And they wanted people to think that the market was going to tank, we're going to like crash so hard because there was so much talk about a hawkish Powell from the media. So it was another trap. It was a trap and another trap. And then this is where they started to cause it to bounce. And we got a crazy bounce here. And then the market makers, they realized something. There was a lot of shorting going on SPY. The shorts ended up piling in. And when the shorts piled in, the market makers said, hey, max pain is at 440. We're going to pump this thing up and we're going to cause as much pain for the shorts as possible. So what did they do? They pumped the market right back up to 440, which is max pain, which screwed over as many options traders as possible. That is crazy. What a wild day it was, right? It almost sounds like I spoke about an entire week. This all happened within one day. And Jerome Powell caused some crazy volatility. The crazy volatility was just insane today. So the market closed in a very strong end, but the question is, will we keep on pumping from here? Will Tesla keep pumping? And I'm going to determine this based off what happens going into next week. But we have some interesting developments on the charts. But before I talk about them, let me just talk about a couple of things involving Tesla. I know I've been getting like kind of carried away with the charts. For Tesla, there's some news that came out about the Cybertruck. We have some new images of the interior. This is some big news. So this is what it's looking like. Looks very, very beautiful, very sleek design, and looks very captivating, very ambient. I'm very excited to see what this is going to look like. And the Cybertruck is a very bullish catalyst for Tesla nonetheless, especially once they get the pricing out there. If more and more orders start coming in, it's going to be good. Wedbush is also saying that the supercharger network is going to become a $20 billion a year business, which is a big part of Tesla. And this is just going to continue to gain more revenue as more and more companies are adopting Tesla's supercharger stations and their chargers, I mean. And then on top of this, you can see right here, there was news that came out involving India, which is considering cutting its import taxes for the domestic production, which would be very bullish for Tesla if Tesla were to end up producing cars over there. So that's a good piece of news that came out. Then there's also this news right here about Tesla investors getting a payout from the SEC settlement. What's going on right now is the Tesla shareholders claim that they faced financial losses because of Elon Musk tweeting about taking the company private. They could end up receiving some compensation due to the SEC's settlement. This is very big for Tesla, very, very important news. And if this does happen, it's going to affect Tesla, at least to some extent. Now, it's not that like massive. It's only like a $42 million fund. Not that insane, knowing how much money Tesla has and etc. So it's worth noting, but it's nothing like too insane. Tesla's volume was 106 million. We had so much volume today, lots of crazy stuff. Tesla was also closing green, up 3.7%. The short volume is still relatively low, nothing too crazy. And then finally, looking at some data, the same old things are going on with the analysts saying Tesla's equally weighted with the market. The price price ratio is going up a bit as Tesla's gaining a little bit of strength. And besides that, I mean, everything else looks about the same. We do tend to do relatively well for Mondays, but there is one concern I have when it comes to how the market is moving. So my concern right now, and I'm just going to talk about SPY and Tesla before I end this video. We have a possible head and shoulders on SPY that is developing. We're going to be watching this 442 zone to see if we reject or not. And then if you zoom out of the charts, let me just show you this. When you zoom out, so this formation on the right could be like the head and shoulders right overall for SPY. The smaller head and shoulders could actually be part of a giant head and shoulders, and that could be the right shoulder, right? This could be a giant head and shoulders on SPY, also on SPX. So there's a possibility of more downside for the markets. Now, is it going to be a crash? I don't think so. I'm not calling a crash or anything like that. This is just a very healthy pullback because when you look at the SPY monthly charts, we were pumping for 5 months in a row. And then finally, for the first time, after a very, very long time, the market finally started to slow down. This is a very healthy pullback, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing to be too scared of as of right now. This is the monthly chart. You could see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months in a row, the market just pumped. And then we're finally getting a very healthy pullback. Completely normal. So I don't expect this to turn into a crash unless something very bad were to happen. Now, what about Tesla? How are the technicals looking for Tesla? Now, on SPY, we had the potential head and shoulders that could be developing. Well, the same thing is actually developing on Tesla. When you zoom out of the chart and look at it, look at the last couple of days on Tesla, and you will see that Tesla is once again not looking that great because of this formation. There's a possible head and shoulders developing on Tesla. And we also have this rising wedge-like pattern right here. It's like right here is forming a potential rising wedge. And if this does play out, right, it's not going to be the best of news for Tesla. But we have to see what news comes out to cause this to play out. If this does play out, it has the same information as SPY, and we're going to be watching some critical levels going into next week. So 240 is going to be key for Tesla, 240 to 242. If Tesla rejects off this area, we could see this head and shoulders play out, and that may cause Tesla to start tanking. 228 to about 230 is going to be a key support. If that breaks for Tesla, there could be some downside coming. So we're going to be watching this very carefully. I think my line got deleted. That was right here. I wonder what happened to it. One of my lines got deleted. Sorry about that, guys. We also have support right about here, this like 225 to 226 level, which is very key for Tesla. But anyways, we're going to be watching these levels carefully. There's a possible head and shoulders, which could lead to a bearish outcome. We're going to be watching the test to see how it reacts. And for the time being, there is a rising wedge right now that is developing. So you can actually draw it out from here. Let me just do this very quickly. If this plays out, this could be another bearish signal that is developing for Tesla. There could be downside, but we need to see what the catalyst is. We need to see what happens going into Monday. So you could draw it out kind of like this overall, and then you could also draw this out just like this, getting this really, really nice looking setup. It's looking a little bit more like this, but it's very important that we note this. It could still be developing, if anything, and you could draw it out a little bit more like this, if anything. So it could take us a little bit higher, but it happens to align very closely with, this level right here, this potential like right shoulder, which suggests that there is a possibility of a rejection coming, but we need to see it to believe it. We need to see this thing actually break down to believe that it's actually going to do that. You don't want to assume that these are going to play out. You need to see confirmation just to be safe. All right, so watch for that for next week, and I will talk more about the market tomorrow in a very, very quick update video. With that said, I thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day. Tesla in the market to the moon, as the long term is still very bright despite these possible bearish signals. I will break down some other levels on Tesla going into the future. All right, so I want to keep it quick. Please enjoy your Friday. Tesla to the moon because the long term is still very bright. And peace out.